Hey, 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 what's up?
What is up, everybody?
Full house today. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's it. The possibility of winning a Masters hat. Just, people love free stuff.
Oh, yeah. I know I do. Do you have one of those, Bodine?
I don't even have one. I have
Ah,
one from last year, but the new ones are even slicker.
I will have to grab one before the end of the call to
Yeah.
actually I'll get it.
Oh, look, Shep's got his on. Wait, Shep, is that the new one? I don't remember if I know in a Smash session I gave away a Masters hat or two. You're muted. Can't hear you.
Usually that's a good thing for Shep.
Yeah. I think I've had this one for a couple years.
Yeah, so that's the original. It's the same cap. We have a white version as well. The patch is just a little different. Same logo, but little bulkier, more meaty patch. Yeah,
It's much better. I like it
much
so
better.
much more.
Yeah.
It's always a work in progress to find good vendors and all that stuff. So now we found a really good one for all of our stuff. T-shirts, awesome. Now the
Yeah.
hats are in place, even better. It's,
Yep.
all right,
Awesome. Welcome everybody. Exciting week of golf going on already.
exciting morning. Did you
Yeah.
do you have that thing queued up yet?
Yeah. I can't tell you how many text messages I've gotten this morning.
I have gotten a bunch also.
Let me
Let's
share
keep
my
this-
screen here for those of you that aren't in the know yet. Our buddy Hayden Buckley
I don't see it yet.
came
There you are.
came out hot today with an ace on the 17th hole here.
There it is. There it is. Oh, it was pretty close. Oh, but here it comes back. Wait for it. At what point did he realize this is really a thing? Oh, that's fantastic.
There we go. Now how do I there you go. Let's watch it one more time.
For all the listeners, let's watch something.
So you know what? What's kind of cool there is I can hear my buddy TJ in the background yell, "Nice shot, Buck." Because
Really?
TJ's there. Yeah, TJ's there following him right now.
Yeah, I didn't know you could hear him though.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And were a couple other videos that I watched of him birdieing or whatever. And TJ and his wife Jane, they'll follow him all day. And Jane always gives this very distinct woot sound that Hayden loves it when she does it. So she does it every time he gets a birdie. So you'll hear her on a lot of the different telecasts. It's funny. So yeah, he had a little bit of a rocky go after that. He was 5 under after 10 and was sitting in first place, and then had to hit the struggle bus a little bit, and he finished it 1 over, I believe. So he's
Yep.
not in the greatest of spots, but there's a lot of golf to play. So just make it through to the weekend, and then I'll get to go watch him on Sunday because I'm heading down there on Saturday afternoon.
Nice.
Which is
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
that's
Yeah.
pretty great. Yeah, I think it was like T60 the last I looked.
Yeah, and I think there's a boatload of people at even par, because I think I just saw like my 1 under, like the guy was tied for 22nd or something. So
Yeah,
anyway.
it's pretty tight, which is a pretty good thing. Let's see here. Yeah, so yeah, T79 at +1.
And pretty cool. It's an 18 strong pairing today and tomorrow. Adam Long and Buckley are in the same pairing.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
You think they're going to talk about us the whole time?
So last time that happened, I got a text from Adam Long, and he just sent me a picture of the tee sheet and said, "This looks like a very," in parentheses, "strong pairing today."
His wordplay is like none other.
Yep, get it. So he didn't have a great day either. He was 3 over, I think. So it'd be really cool. really cool to see both of those guys playing on Sunday. So keep your fingers crossed. It looks very hard. So I get to play it on Monday. And I told one of my clients that last week, Jim Holgreave, who was the captain of the Walker Cup team the years 2011, 2013. So he was the captain. The 11 team had like Harris English, Jordan Spieth. I'm trying to think who else was on that team. Russell Henley, I believe. The 2013 team had Justin Thomas, Max Homa. I don't know that there's any other big names off of that team. But anyway, I told him, I said, hey, Captain, I'm going to play Sawgrass on that Monday. He's like, oh, that'll be great. That you'll have a lot of fun. And then this morning he stopped in specially and he dropped these off. And he goes, here, you're going to need those.
24 balls for 18 holes. Wow.
He actually one he dropped off. He's nice enough. He brought a dozen for my son, Sam. He heard that he was trying out for the golf team. So he brought Sam a dozen balls as well. But he's like, you're going to need all of these.
Yeah. Sam will never see those balls.
Well, I'll have to give them to him because I know that I'll ask Jim to come and give Sam some tips and he'll say something about the golf balls that he gave him. And so I can't hide it.
Well, they don't have to be those. You can stop at Tower T on the way home and just load up your bag with range balls.
Yeah. Fun fact. So these are the Triple Track technology. We have no affiliation with Triple Track or Callaway. But Jim was the middleman between Ray Barrett and Callaway. So Ray Barrett is the guy who invented the Triple Track technology, and he's a local St. Louis guy. He is friends with Jim, or became friends with Jim, and Jim is very good friends with Chip Brewer from Callaway, and so it was Jim that put those two together and kind of coordinated that deal to get Triple Track onto the Callaway golf ball. Started out with just the ERC ball, and now it's on everything. So
yeah,
that thing has really exploded. And if you guys. We had Ray on the podcast a long time ago. Just a cool story. I think he's like 80 years old. He had already sold 2 companies for like hundreds of millions of dollars. And he just kind of developed the Triple Track technology. At first, it was him trying to figure out a way that him and his he goes, me and my old man golfer buddies, we couldn't see the golf ball anymore after we hit it off the tee. So I trying to find a way that we could make it more visible off the tee box. And so I went and asked my wife, because she's an interior designer. He's like, what colors do we see the best? And
right.
She said, red, green, and blue. It's like, so I went and I drew 3 lines on a golf ball, red, green, and blue line. I took it out and I started playing with it. I still couldn't see it for shit. he goes, but what I started to do is I started to use those lines to putt with. I just line up those lines. And they were kind of all squiggly, because if you ever try to draw a straight line on a golf ball, it's hard. But I started to then draw them a little better and started putting with them. And I started taking all my buddies had to start buying me lunch because I kept beating them, and they got sick of me beating them. So then I started making balls for them, and they started putting better. And I was like, well, crap, there might be something here. And so he took it to UMSL University here in St. Louis, took it to the optometry department there, and asked one of the doctors there if there was anything to this ball. And the guy looked at it and said, I think you're onto something. This looks like, it's called visual acuity is the term. And it's like the same premise that they use for like Navy ships, and, like the lines down the Navy ship, because you can see from a distance, you see that, and it helps orient your eyes into a perfect direction to whatever your target is.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did some testing on it and showed that people putted like 12% better using the Triple Track versus, I don't know if that was versus a single line or if that was versus no line whatsoever or whatnot. But anyway, that's kind of the brief synopsis, the drunk history of the Triple Track golf ball.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Dude, 12% was like a crazy number when he told us that. I'm like, oh my God, that can't be 12%. Real.
So I do use that. That's what I use. Not you should use me as a barrier for what ball to putt with, but I do like that. And we talk a lot about the guys from Lost Art of Golf, Marina. I'm curious to hear, Marina, do you use a line on your ball, or are you a straight field putter?
So when I went up to Archerfield for my first workshop on the putting workshop, we were 12 delegates, and Gary Nicol was there. I always used to have a line on my ball. And after 2 hours on the putting green, Gary had changed almost everything in my putting routine. And I said, how on earth am I going to do anything? He said, first of all, you take this line off your ball because it sort of narrows your visualization. You don't need to look at a very straight line. So even though, and I never have put a line back on my ball, and I'm really, really actually loving putting, and I'm a very good putter, but Gary did he is a Callaway representative. He's sort of done a deal with Callaway, and he's done all this. You might have seen all his small short videos.
No, I haven't.
There are lots. I send you the links. There are loads of these. He's now doing short game like wedges, but last year and during lockdown he did everything with Callaway triple track up at Archerfield, and they're like just a few minutes long, but he sort of uses these lines. And when I saw him, I said, what do you think about this? He said, well, it's a deal with Callaway, that's all he said. He never, when I played with him, he never uses lines. But that's what works for you. I mean, I got a very good golfing friend. She always uses triple track, and it works for her. So it's what the chaps say. Whatever works for you, you got to use it. If it helps you, you got to use it. But
yeah, go ahead.
I don't, and Gary never does it. Even though he has all these videos. Don't say that. Don't say that.
That's hilarious. Oh, we're live streaming this, by the way. So you just ratted him out. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was curious about that because, and I do feel like there are a lot of people that are like straight field putters. They really like, and if you read their book, The Lost Art of Putting, they talk a lot about that. And one thing that I do like about this, almost like as a hybrid between not using a line and using the straight line, they talk about in the book, thinking of not having just like if you're visualizing your putt, not visualizing just a line, visualizing more of a gutter, almost where it's a bigger, because it all depends on your pace. And so to have a bigger, wider, line that's going towards the hole, I like this because I kind of feel like it's almost like that gutter kind of a feel. It's not one single line, right? Because I would find myself when I had a single line, I'd line it up, I'd stand over the ball, and then it felt a little off, and then then you really start second guessing yourself. I do that way less with these, and I think it's because it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit more of a general line, but still kind of takes me towards. I like to pick one spot that I'm putting towards, and so it kind of like gives me that viewpoint of putting towards that one aim point or whatever. So it's almost like a little bit of a hybrid to me. So that's why I think I like it. I don't find myself standing up over the ball and looking down and being like, oh my gosh, that's off a little bit. I need to get back down and switch it. Or I'm just going to like kind of figure out how much the line is off, and I'm going to try to adjust my body to change that a little bit. So, but
yeah, that's quite a good view you have on that one. Like it widens your perspective.
Right.
But in fact, if you read the books and if you've been to like me to this workshop, you can see that actually the entry point of every hole has got like 3 balls. You can come in from 3 different, depending on the pace. So the gutter can actually be, depending on the pace, quite wide. Mm-hmm. And once you put like alignment sticks to people and say, can you, and have these 3 balls as a sort of a distance, and you say to them, can you actually putt inside this? And they say, sure, yeah, I can do that. And it frees them up by just sort of opening that understanding, and that's their sort of view. But then we got other people who have a different view of it. So I always see the gutter, and it's like a lava that runs in. It's a colorful, like orange one. It drops in. And Carl Morris always says to me that you've got to see, the last thing you see is you see the ball dropping into the hole, and you visualize that, and that has helped me tremendously. But then you got other people like Easy Justice. He wants that specific point, just like you say, and you hold the target, and you butt to that one, and you adjust your brain waves will work it out, and your brain. So it's just how you see it.
Yeah. There's so many different ways to do it, and so many different ways that people teach it too, right?
Yeah.
But if any of you haven't read that book, The Lost Art of Putting, that's a must read in my opinion.
And then get the ball, and then you're 12% better.
And then, yeah, right, exactly.
Those two things. Like, hey, that could be 20%, 15%. Nice.
What else we got cooking?
Yeah, TPC is kind of on everybody's mind here.
Yeah.
I finished the documentary on Netflix. Pretty freaking awesome. I would imagine, I don't know, are they doing a second season of that? Have they
I heard it's
announced?
coming out in 24.
Okay.
So we got to wait a year,
Damn.
like everything else. Like
That's
every other
crazy.
streaming show that you binge watch. You watch it in a weekend, and then you got to wait a year.
Yeah, I saw the
Like Peaky Blinders.
I saw the F1 like Netflix effect. It's crazy. The amount of almost like 45% of American viewers started watching F1 because of that series. So this should be a major jolt for PGA.
Yeah. Now it'll be interesting to see, because now they did tennis. They did golf. Somebody told me they're doing something else. So if that kind of waters it down a little bit, because I haven't started the tennis one. I'm sure I'll probably watch that one. But then there's only so much that you can follow and watch. And I was talking to a gal here who's a huge F1 fan because of that show.
Right.
And she watched the golf one. She's like, I like it, but I'm already hooked on my F1. Like I can only do so much. I've only got so much bandwidth to start following. But no, I think it's great exposure for the PGA, especially for the guys that were on there. I wish they had a few more storylines or just a few more episodes. It sounds like they have so much footage of all these different guys. They followed other guys around too. And rather than doing it, they did it different than the F1. F1, it seemed like it followed along. They broke it into different stories, but it seemed like it followed the season a little bit more. Whereas that one was just a little bit more like, hey, here's an episode on Joel Damon, and here's an episode on Brooks Koepka. It didn't necessarily track throughout the season.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. Where the like F1, there were like commonalities. There were the common thread that went through the whole series. But yeah, like how many times did they flash back on the PGA Championship? You know, or it's like, I was talking to Kendra as we were watching, like, what are the odds that whoever was the subject of that episode either did really well in that tournament or pooped the bed in that tournament? So yeah, they must have enough for 10 seasons of that thing, just based on how timely it was, based on the outcomes of those tournaments. Because who the hell knows who's going to win week to week? Like F1, between 5 dudes who's going to win it. Right. Maybe 2 guys, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I wish they would almost like release kind of a second part to this first season of stuff that they already filmed, and then in 2024, do this current season just to give us, just to wet our beaks a little bit,
That's right. You've already turned me into a crack addict on this thing. Now I need a little more. For God's sakes. All right. So the subject today was kind of, hey, when I walk into the gym, what happens next?
Hold on, let me plug my computer in here, make sure I don't run out of batteries.
Which is pretty good one, because I've never been through that process either. This was kind of dabbled, but nothing for reals.
Yeah, so this was Ryan's idea to just kind of go through and maybe pick a couple people out of the crowd here. And obviously we can't do like a full-blown legit assessment, but you guys can kind of get an idea of a little bit of, just talking through what are a few things. I was going to try to rearrange a little bit, so maybe I could even demonstrate a little bit more. We'll maybe make do a little bit, but my microphone is kind of tied in here. So yeah, like when somebody comes into to my office, or to the gym, everybody's got different desires, different reasons why they show up. Like I had a good friend of mine show up just today for a follow-up. We just assessed him earlier this week, but he recently had surgery on his knee. He tore a meniscus, and he tore his meniscus when he was playing golf, which is not something that you see very often. And so initially when he was coming in, he was actually coming in for some of the Smash sessions. I won't reveal his name. Not that I'm bound by HIPAA laws, but just so I don't share any personal information of his.
Mhm.
But so he was coming in during the Smash sessions, and we knew that his knee was hurting, and we were thinking that it was more like a sprain to the inner side of his knee, to his MCL. And so we were just kind of adjusting different exercises and making sure that he wasn't hurting himself or putting himself in any positions, and then referred him over to a buddy of mine that's an ortho surgeon. And turns out he had a meniscus tear. And I've seen his golf swing thousands of times. And so knowing that he had a meniscus tear, and we just kind of started talking through some things. And I said, I guarantee, just knowing your swing the way that I do, we need to get some other things moving. It's not your knee that is the problem. We've talked about this so many times before on the show. Typically it's
Right.
not the thing that gets injured or hurt is oftentimes not really the cause of the issue. The cause is that something else isn't working properly and fails, and then another part of your body has to take up the slack or the strain for that. And so, when obviously we didn't assess him or anything prior to his surgery, he was just coming in. We were just doing the Smash sessions as, group workouts and stuff like that. But just being very careful with his knee. And sure enough, after we looked at his assessment post-surgery, which he's doing really well, the surgery went great. The surgeon said it was super easy. It was just a quick little orthoscopic, and just went in, cleaned it up a little bit. No big deal. 2 little poke holes in his knee. And 2 weeks later, I guess it's 3 weeks later, he's already back in here, and we're able he went through some therapy. We're able to do pretty much anything we want within reason, just kind of make sure that his body can tolerate it. But as we looked at his movement capacity, he is very restricted in his lower body. His hips don't rotate very well at all. And, I didn't have him do any golf swings because I don't want him swinging a club yet. But, just looking at joint by joint, some of the things that we look at, he definitely had some major restrictions in his hips and even his ankles. And so when I see restrictions in the hips and ankles, those are the 2 joints above and below the knee. And so very likely, as he's trying to make a golf swing and he's trying to turn, he's a right-handed golfer, he's trying to turn to finish his swing. Left hip doesn't rotate very well. Left ankle is pretty rigid, doesn't rotate very well, also has pretty tight calves and everything. So he's just not getting a whole lot of movement out of those two joints. And of the 3 joints of the lower body, the hip, the knee, the ankle, the knee is supposed to be the very stable one. The hip and the ankle are supposed to be the ones that move really well. Well, they don't move very well. And so
Mhm.
because they're not moving well, the knee's going to say, well, I'll try to help out a little bit. I'll do what I can. And, as he's rotating, this is what has happened to Tiger Woods, right? Not saying I don't know anything about his hip or his ankles, but, that left knee, from all that rotation on that left side, finishing his golf swing, that knee takes up all that extra stress. And so that's where the meniscus tear happened. He's a very strong guy. You would look at him and he's a very athletic guy, played soccer. Excuse me. But it's just a case of his body wasn't ready for that stress at that moment in that situation. And that's how injuries occur. We can never really predict them when they're going to happen. You can kind of predict if you see that there's these limitations ahead of time. And that's why, we work on these things. So that's just one instance of somebody coming in to see me for a certain reason. Somebody else might come in as a high school golfer. They come in and they know that they need to get stronger, they need to get faster, they need to build some speed. My clients that come in that are, typically your country club style golfer that's in their, say, 60s, usually they come in and we know that they are going to be a little bit tighter, and they're not looking to make any huge body changes. They're not looking to, be on the cover of a magazine. They're not looking to necessarily even really lose a whole lot of weight. What they're looking for is to feel better. They want to move better. They want to feel like they can make a good golf swing. But most of them don't have any illusions that they're going to look like Rory McIlroy when they're swinging a golf club, right? They know that, excuse me, they know that, that their body just doesn't move like that. And so when we first sit down, we kind of talk about what are any injuries that you've had prior, what sports did you play, just so I can have an understanding of what type of movement capacity might they have, what kind of sports background and athleticism might they have, what are some of the athletic endeavors that we can maybe draw on if I've never worked with this person or seen them before. What are some of the things that I'm going to put in the back of my head as far as, athletic movements that I can draw back on and say, like as a soccer player, as a baseball player, as a hockey player, how are we going to maybe correlate what they did prior to just moving, not even necessarily making a golf swing, but just moving, right?
Right.
Balance wise, mobility wise, those kinds of things. And then, when I ask people, usually they say, I want to get stronger and move better and play better golf. It's like, okay, well, how do we dial that in a little bit more? Because some clients do come in and they're 20 pounds overweight and they want to lose weight. Well, then that changes a little bit of, that's not going to change my initial assessment necessarily, except that, maybe some folks we won't put on the in-body scale and get their body fat and all that stuff, because it doesn't really matter that much to them. But somebody that it does matter, we'll put them on, get a baseline there. It's not going to change that much what I look at then in my assessment, because really what I'm first and foremost worried about is this, how does this person move? What's their mobility like? What are the limitations that we might find? What are the things that I think might cause injury that we first need to work on and possibly clean up? Where are they not strong? And I don't even mean strong. I don't do a ton of like strength tests regarding like, I don't do any like 1 rep max kind of testing or anything like that. I feel like if it's somebody that I'm going to work with a little bit, we'll start to work and I'll get an understanding of what their abilities to lift different weights are in different situations. I usually have an hour to an hour and a half with somebody the first time they come in. And depending on how much we talk at the beginning to get their goals and just their history and things like that, I want to make sure that we go through their different mobility and coordination tests, a couple of golfish kind of tests. I pretty much do, and what we're going to talk about today primarily is the TPI screen that we run through and some of the components there, and then a couple other things that I try to work into that. And then I might do like some medicine ball power tests, like a throw on the ground and a seated chest pass. I don't have the ability to do a vertical jump test. I would do that if I had some different technology or even different space. I don't have a great spot even on a wall to do a jump and touch kind of a test, which is an important test, but I just don't have that. So that's kind of my mentality going in. Like, what are they here for? What do they want? What goals do they have? And then we pretty much say, all right, let's go out to the pit and let's get started. And I'll start to run through a couple of those things. So yeah, that's kind of where we start.
All right. So most people have a general idea of what they, or think they know what they need. Like, I need to move better. Like the young kids, they know they need to get stronger because I'm sure they want to hit the ball. I mean, everybody who walks in there wants to hit the ball farther.
Yeah, it's kind of fun when the young kids come in, the high school kids, because some of them are just like, my mom and dad said I should probably do this. But some of them are very in tune, like some of them are, like some of them, it's their idea to come in and their parents are like, hey, he he or she asked about, coming in and starting some training or because they really want to kind of take it to the next level is usually the phrase that I hear. They want to take it to the next level, which I
Right.
think is so awesome because then you have a kid that's engaged. You have a kid that is willing to, I mean, I get some of the best questions from the kids about why we're doing different things.
Mhm.
Um, just what this exercise is, what are we working here? How does this help my golf game? And that leads to great conversations about the fact that everything that we do is not about your golf swing, right? It's about building you as an athlete, building you as somebody that moves better. And this is a conversation that I wish some more of my older golfers would ask, um, or be open to hearing, because sometimes it's the older clients that are the worst when it comes to the golfishness,
Right.
because everything they do, they feel like it has to feel like a golf swing, it has to look like a golf swing, because they're not there to um for another like physical goal in their minds. They're there for it to be for their golf game, so they feel like everything should feel like their golf game, and so that can get very frustrating at times,
Right.
um and because they don't understand why we might be doing some certain things that are really just very general exercises, split squats, lunges, some of the pushes and pulls and different things like that. So those are usually the ones where I have to build in some golfishness into our program and
Keep
almost
them entertained. Right.
appease at times. Um, but yeah, like a lot of, the kids will come in, they know, and the kids and the parents. I usually try to sit down with both, but direct my questions primarily to the kids. Um, and the youngest kid that I really work with would be around, I'm trying to think who's the youngest right now. I've had one as young as 10, 11, which I think is pretty young.
Yeah. Right.
I'd rather that kid just be out having fun playing, and I'll give him some simple things to work on, some athletic kind of stuff. I don't do um, anything golfy with them. I'll try to make it fun when they're in here. But when I get into the high school kids, we'll talk. They realize, like, most of them come in and it's there's one girl that I work with. I have more boys that I work with, and usually they come in and they're like the wiry, lanky little kids that they know I need to get stronger. And so those are the conversations that we have, that strength is going to help them then build speed. But we got to start with some basics and some fundamentals, and get you moving well first, connecting your brain with your body. So you just understand how to move, and then that's when you start to get stronger, and teaching them that it's not always about lifting heavier. It's about lifting better, your postures, your range of motion, and then moving well against resistance. And that in the long run will make you way stronger than your buddies that are trying to bench and squat all this extra weight, and they're doing it with poor form. So long range goals there. Most of the the golfers that come in their, the golfers that are in their 50s, 60s, they come in looking for flexibility, looking for a range of motion, want a bigger turn. But that's when sometimes I have to have the conversation of, we need to create some strength, and that's going to help with that range of motion and flexibility. And sometimes you might think you need flexibility or extra range, but you don't necessarily. Maybe your movement pattern is just wrong. Maybe you're just not understanding the movement that needs to happen. And we've seen this, Ryan. We talked with Nick Clearwater a lot about this from Golf Tech, that most people, I mean, the actual range of motion that you need to make a golf swing is not as much as people think it is. It's
Right.
just that it's a combination of a couple, different joints. It's being able to use your hips and your trunk and your shoulders and everything the right way. Sometimes we lock down one area, or we're maybe tight in one area, and we're trying to get it all from, you know, the shoulder turn, but we're not turning from the hips, or we're not shifting our weight, or something's off. And once you can clear that up, sometimes it makes things much more efficient. It makes you allows you to move better. This happened just recently with a client of mine working with our buddy Casey. Casey was just going through some of the biomechanics stuff with the 3D modeling, and just had him change a couple things that he was doing as far as like pressure shifting and how he's rotating. And the client was like, whoa, that swing felt way easier. That there's no way that could have gone anywhere. Like when he hit the ball, he's like, there's no way that could have gone anywhere. He's like, well,
Right.
your ball speed's up 10 miles an hour. What do you think of that? He's like, no way. He's like, that felt so easy. He's like, yeah, that efficiency feels easy. Like your golf swing doesn't have to feel hard, right?
Right.
Like, so that's kind of the goal there. And then I would say, you know, then there's the range of guys that are a little bit more my age, a little bit younger, that are still kind of in that area where I feel like they don't necessarily know what they want. They just come in there like, I want to get in better shape. Many of them still want to look good. You know, I want to play better golf. It's like, I want all of it. So where do I go? What do I do?
Where do I
And
start? Right.
right. And so sometimes that's a case where it can be a little bit difficult, because sometimes you have to then pinpoint like, all right, we got to figure out what we can let go of a little bit in order to actually move towards a real goal. Maybe your goal is fat loss. We know that you need to get a little bit stronger, but you want to do all these really hard workouts and circuits and stuff like that. And because you think you're trying to lose weight too, and you're trying to get too many things at one time. And so we got to like step back off of one in order to move a little bit closer to the other, as far as like strength or speed or mobility or recovery, or, you know, eating better, you know, and that brings in a whole different slew of, you know, diet and alcohol and what do we need to address in those respects too. So
Yeah, that's a million different things. When you, it's kind of a mixed bag when someone walks in as a blank canvas. Like, we got to give me something to go on. Like, I can turn you into a Men's Health cover model, but you're not going to be able to eat like you want to eat. So let's
Right.
figure this thing out.
Right.
So I'm going to do this. So Marina had a question. What do you mean by connecting your mind with your body? And while you're answering that, I'm going to get the two versions of the hat for
Oh, yeah.
for
Cool.
today's guinea pig. So
Yeah, and don't let me get too off track, because I do want to run through a few of these tests. I don't know if we'll end up being able to pick people out to do a couple things here, but I at least want to give you guys an idea of what we look at here.
we're gonna.
So what I mean by connecting the mind with the body, you know, and I especially do this with the kids. One of the things that I learned years ago when working with the kids is, first, you just have to teach them a lot of the basic movements, right? Like you have to teach them how to control their body, not just throw them in and throw some weights at them and let them do the movements that we think we want them to do, because they can kind of mimic different things. But if we don't teach them how to control those motions, if we don't teach them how to use proper tempo and how to hold their postures in these different exercises, then we're just kind of setting them up long term to just kind of run through the motions. And that can be a fight that us as trainers and coaches, we deal with a lot. Is sometimes I find that the clients that I send away with a program to do on their own, and this might sound counterintuitive, some of the clients that come in here that I assess, I put together a program, I send them away to do their stuff on their own. And maybe people that I've worked with for a little while, that I've walked them through a lot of different sessions, but now they go off and they do it on their own. I'm thinking of a couple people specifically. They're very diligent about doing the program the right way. They just have the drive to do it right. If they're coming in to see me, they're paying for a program, they have their own gym membership, they're going and doing their workouts. they have a good understanding, or they have a lot of intent in their exercises. We video them doing every exercise. So when they go away, I don't just give them a spreadsheet and a video of me doing it. I actually take a video of them doing it and then put that in an app so they can see that, they can kind of remember what it felt like when I was there coaching them, you know, what it was like for them to feel how awkward it was, or the different cues. So hopefully that helps out a little bit. Sometimes when a coach or trainer has somebody that comes regularly into the gym, it's almost like the client will shut off their attention and they'll just do what you say. You do an exercise and then they're like, okay, what are we doing next? And it's almost like they follow you around and you tell them what to do, you give them cues, but they kind of feel like, oh, well, Jeff's paying attention. He'll correct me if I need it. I don't really need to pay attention. I'll just do it. You know, it's like they're literally just
Right.
running through the motions. And you could ask somebody at the end of the workout, like, okay, tell me the 6 exercises we did today. Because sometimes that's all that we do is six exercises. And they'll be like, oh, you know, and they'll like, it's like, what'd you eat for breakfast yesterday? Like you were on autopilot and you don't even remember. So teaching them that, you know, you have to have some intention when you're doing whatever that movement is. So getting your brain to connect either with maybe it might be a muscle that we're working on. Now for the kids, you know, when we're really just starting them out, I'm worried more about them understanding the movement, not necessarily, oh, you need to fire this muscle or this muscle or this muscle. It's only in certain situations am I going to have somebody like really try to trigger a specific muscle. And then when you start to get into, you know, having more training under your belt, the difference between like bodybuilding and strength training is like in bodybuilding, you're going to focus a lot more on that isolation of those muscles, of what's contracting, what am I really working on? Because that mind to muscle connection, literally mind to muscle connection, is going to help you build the contraction in that muscle, which is going to help that muscle grow more. Now, when you're working on strength, you want to concentrate a little bit more on not so much the contraction of specific muscles, but the actual intent of the movement pattern. So let's just say in a barbell squat, I don't do a whole lot of those, but if doing a barbell squat, it's not often that I would cue somebody like, oh, you got to really feel your glutes here. It's more just about positions and them getting the weight moving to build strength, because you're using more than just your glutes. You're using pretty much everything in your body. So to just target the one is, and sometimes you can do that, but if you're purely working on strength, you're going to be more concerned about get the weight moving, not squeeze your glutes kind of thing, if that makes sense. But I think it's really important that if somebody doesn't have a connection between the intent of their movement, the intent of what they're doing long term, again, it's kind of an autopilot thing where you don't really understand why you're doing that exercise.
Yeah, it's more like a robot just busting out reps and
Yeah.
meaningless.
Yeah. And I mean, you can be thinking about something else and crank out whatever the exercise is, and you don't get nearly the benefit out of that exercise if you didn't connect any. And then if you're doing this for golf and you are trying to assimilate this in some way, shape, or form to, you know, you getting a movement pattern to work a little bit better or to be a little more comfortable with a movement pattern, you better be paying attention to it then. You can't just be running through the motions, because then your body's not going to remember that pattern or start to ingrain that pattern at all if you're just, you know, doing it kind of willy-nilly.
Yeah, it took me a long time for you guys to talk me into that, you know, 5 really, really good reps is better than 12, like half-ass, just going through it where you're not like 1, 2, 3, 1 like that. And then I noticed, you know, almost immediately, like, oh my God, they were right for all those years.
Yeah.
The results are so much better.
Yeah. Just the, you know, posture, tempo, all of those things make such a big difference when you do implement that for real. There's a reason why we put those in the program, right?
Yeah. And it's okay to do lighter weights. to us
Yes.
ego idiot. Like I imagine that's a problem with the high school boys. Like I'm not going to be a bitch and only curl 20 pounds. No?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a problem with the older guys too. Guys our age.
We're all stupid.
Do you mention anything about the breathing to them at all? Do you use the breathing in, because you don't specifically in the videos, you don't talk about the breathing.
I don't, I mean, I do when in here, I don't in the videos, because, and breathing is crucial, but I also think that sometimes if you're pointing out too many different things can cause confusion. And if I see that there's an issue with them breathing, then I'll address the breathing. If I feel like that's okay, then maybe we'll get into that a little bit another time. And I'm not an expert on the diaphragmatic breathing and, some of those techniques that you would find in like a DNS course or some of these different courses, postural restoration, even Egoscue gets into breathing a lot. But I feel like as long as they're doing a good job when I'm watching them through the repetitions, I don't go too deep into that until we get into some of the bracing techniques and some of the, core and stabilization drills. We'll talk about that. But I don't address it, and I especially don't address it in the Golf Body Blueprint and some of those, just because that program is so much more of a generalized, because that's meant for so many different golfers. And I don't want to confuse people by, I've had people, then they start concentrating so much on the inhale, the exhale, and they're like, and then they forget about what's actually happening body wise. So great question though.
All right. So I've got two versions. Actually, I almost forgot this. So this is the OG, I guess. And then this is the one, I think Friday this one drops next Friday for the Masters. So our two Masters hats. And I almost forgot, they say 18 strong on the back there, which is pretty slick. So you can wear them front and back. So it's up to whomever wants to be the guinea pig to go with the all white, which, by the way, those all white hats are impossible to find.
Yeah, we got lucky.
Yeah, they must be super popular. Yeah. So how do you want to do it, Bodine?
I don't even know.
First person to raise their hand?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, first person to raise their hand if you want to. I mean, it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be hard to really go through these different tests online. So we can kind of talk through what we would do. But yeah, if anybody's willing, we'll work our way through this here.
All right.
Not everybody at once.
I see it. I see.
Oh, Shepard.
Shepard.
I saw Shepard. All right, Johnny Shep. Even though I guess John's getting a white hat because he's already got the green.
He's already set up.
Yeah.
I need another hat, like I need a hole in the head, but
yeah, here we go. Funny story. We're at the Hermitage in Nashville. So John was on our trip to Nashville, and literally on the way to the golf course, it says, he says pretty much what he just said.
Yeah.
And goes, "My wife will kill me if I come home with another hat." And we walk into the pro shop, and the Hermitage is known for their black furred sheep that walk all through the course. And so the first hat that Shepard sees, it just says big across the front, says sheep across the front. And he's like, "Shepard, sheep, I think I have to get that." And sure enough, before he even checked in, he buys a hat and walks back out to his car. So
that's I wonder what the over under is on golfers' hats. It's got to be 20.
Yeah,
I'm sure I've got 20 hats.
I'm plus that, definitely, and
that's
probably plus by one when I come home next week.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
All right, sheep. He's
all
up.
right. So Shep, what would you say? Let's just kind of start real quick at the beginning here, and then we'll we've only got 9 minutes here. So
this may just be part one.
Yeah, quick and dirty. What would you say are your big goals for your fitness and golf and everything right now?
For fitness, I want to just maintain what I'm doing. I don't think I just got done with a strength program, so I think I've gained some good muscle there. I think I just want to maintain my current strength levels, and I think I want to focus more on more of the fast twitch speed stuff. Yeah, so I think that would be it. So more of the power and strength issue, or strength, not necessarily muscle gains.
Gotcha. And so what strength wise, what have you been doing in your workouts? Just kind of primary stuff. I think I have an understanding, but just so you can give everybody else a little glimpse.
Yeah, so everything's done with barbells, and it's pretty basic stuff. A lot of squats, a lot of lunges, a lot of deadlifts, a lot of bench press, a lot of pulling activities, things like that. Pretty basic stuff, actually. And then core work as well. So planks, side planks, sit-ups, crunches, hollow holds, things like that.
So, have you been through any of our programs?
I have not.
Okay. Just curious. So I think I have an understanding of, I mean, basically you do a lot of the things, as far as like the big five that we talk about a lot, the presses, the pulls, the hinges, the squats, lunges, core work. We talk about rotation, anti-rotation kind of stuff. So first of all, what I would do with John, it sounds like he's doing a lot of the right things when it comes to exactly what he wants, or what he was working on was the strength component of things. Rep ranges, John, were you kind of in the 3 to 5 range, or?
No, it's probably in whatever you can. It's usually timed, so usually 45 to a minute.
Okay. Oh, so timed reps.
Yeah, or during the strength, it was max 12 reps,
Okay.
and then a lot of rest.
Okay. Excellent. So what we would then do, first just bringing in for an assessment is then now we would start looking just at some movement stuff before we get into what are we going to do with your program. Let's just kind of take a look at, how the body's moving, first of all, because I'll have some people come in, they'll tell me what they're doing exercise wise, and then we'll go through and find that, hey, this person's been doing a ton of barbell squatting. But when I look at their squat, they can't even really do a full range of motion body weight squat. And so then that's a problem, right? Because then that's just kind of causing some issues. So first thing I would do, we would go down into the pit out here, and I would put a golf club in John's hand and just have him stand there like he's going to hit a golf ball into the net. And first, I just want to look at what his traditional golf posture is, without me cueing anything, just here, stand here, shoes off, but hold on to this 5 or 6 iron and just stand there. I usually take a down the line view, and then I'll swing around to a face on view, just so I can have that for reference on, what their posture looks like. And then I will look at primarily, are they in a pretty good, position? What does their hinge look like? Let me see if I can at least do a couple of these here. All right. So I'm going to be looking at, what does their hinge look like? Are they really rounded? Do they have a big swale in their low back and then kind of a rounded posture up top? So we would call that like a C posture, is if they're really just kind of rounded over the golf ball. An S posture would be they have a little bit of a rounded back, but then kind of a sway back at the bottom. Or do they just fully extend in their back? So we kind of look at those. I like to look at, where's the balance in their feet? Are they a little bit more toe dominant? Are they a little bit more heel dominant? Are they a little bit more middle of the foot? And then we'll get into a couple separation drills and really pelvic control drills. So the first one is kind of standing in that posture. So I'll take the club away and I'll have them just put their hands across their shoulders. And this is straight out of the TPI textbook. and I'll have them do what we call a pelvic tilt. The table is a little bit high for you to see this. Let's see. But if I go up here, of course, I've got dark pants on here too. But a pelvic tilt is going to be like, think of if you guys know what the cat and camel is, if you're on your hands and knees and you're kind of, like rounding the low back and then arching the back, rounding, arching. So I'm going to have them in golf position, trying to do that little move there and seeing how well they can stay solid up top and how well they can kind of keep the lower body fairly, like the feet fairly still without, a bunch of jittering around. You'll find some crazy stuff. Like I'll tell them, so get up a little higher. Here's me just kind of like back and forth, pelvic tilting, right? I'll get people that are like doing this kind of thing, like their body just can't figure it out. And it's a very eye-opening test for people because they're like, whoa, like my body just doesn't understand what you're trying to get me to do there. And so I tell them like, that's part of what we need to address is the fact that it's not a pass or fail test. Like, oh, you can't do it. You can't do it. It's like, we want to know, does your body even understand what that movement is? Because that motion happens a little bit in our golf swing, not with us thinking about it, but if we can't do it under control when it's slow motion, then it's going to be hard for us to make any changes if we have to make changes to that in your swing. The next one I look at would be, can he keep his lower body really still and do just a simple little rotation here? But you'll be surprised at how when I have people do this and I want the hips dead still, like your legs are in concrete, and I'll see people kind of like swaying back and forth. And you guys can even try this if you can stand up where you are. So can you do that? Can you just separate the shoulders from the hips? And then the other one would be, can you separate the hips? So hips rotating side to side. I know you can't see my hips here. Can you keep your shoulders still while you rotate your pelvis side to side? I like to call that one kind of the Elvis Presley drill. That reminds me of Elvis's hips swaying side to side.
Right.
Those three tests will tell me a lot about, can you separate your upper body from your lower body? Because as we go into our backswing, we're getting that rotation of the trunk, and then we need that move of the hips first before we can then get our body to start rotating. Many of us get to the top and we go arms or shoulders, and we don't necessarily have any rotation or separation of those areas. So those are the three that I usually start with. Then we go into a squat test. And for the squat test, I have these little incline boards that are 25-degree angles. And so I'll start somebody on the incline board. So your heels are up on the incline, the ball of your foot is on the floor. And then we'll have you put your thumbs on your collarbone, just like so, and then try to squat down as low as you can go with the heels up. You could put your heels on like a 2x4 or something like that. Basically what we're doing there is we're taking the ankles out of it a little bit. So we're really testing to see, can the hips get low enough? Can the knees bend enough? Can you keep nice and upright and do your feet stay straight? If you cannot get down into a full squat, where I'm looking to see, can your butt get below your knees? If you can't get your butt below your knees in that position and stay upright, then we're looking at, okay, is there something going on with the hips? Are the hips tight? Are the knees tight? Is the trunk, like, is there a lack of core strength where you can't stay upright and keep yourself in a good position to get down low enough? Usually with the heels up, most people get into a fairly decent position. But I've had plenty of people that couldn't get into a full squat right there. Again, keeping the elbows up. If somebody can do that, which I've seen John here in the gym, I would assume John can do that, no problem. Then I would put him on feet flat. And so now what feet flat does, it tests your range of motion of your ankle. You have to have more ankle range of motion now to be able to squat all the way down. Your your knee has to be able to move a little bit in front of your toes. If you can picture, say this is my foot, pretend this is my knee. My knee has to be able to go this way in front of my toes in order to let my butt get all the way down. This is where many people struggle because they don't realize it, but their calves are tight and their calves won't let them bend the ankle forward enough to let the butt then drop down. So that's when you start to see people go from squatting, like this to all of a sudden they have to squat like that.
Right.
So that test right there is one that I would recommend all of you guys try, especially if you're doing any kind of squatting in your workout program. This is the one where I get a lot of the high school kids that will come in and they'll say, they'll tell me about what they're doing in the gym. What are they doing in their weights class? Oh yeah, we're squatting, we're doing this. And I'm like, well, how much are you squatting? Oh, 135 pounds. So 135 pounds is a bar with a 45 plate on each side. And for a kid that probably only weighs 145 pounds,
Right.
that's a lot of weight, right? And then I'll watch him do a body weight squat and he can't do it at all. There's no way I would ever put that kid under a barbell. And here they're doing it at school. Same for any of us that are on this call. None of us are high school kids. But if you came in and I saw you squat on the flat ground and you're bending over like this and you can't keep your posture upright, I'm not going to have you do squats until I can do something that's going to change your posture, your position, that's going to allow you to get into the range of motion that I want with the posture that I want. So in that case, I would put your feet up on I would put them on the inclines that I have, but you could put them up on a 2x4. You could throw a couple plates down on the ground and do some dumbbell squats. You could do goblet squats. I like goblet squats a lot, but I would raise your feet up a little bit in order to take that stress off the ankles. And then that's something that we would then, now I make a note, like we got to work on their ankles, right? We got to work on their range of motion for their calves. So we can then get into a better squatting position. I know we're over time a little bit, but last thing is, you might be asking, well, why do I even care about getting into a squatting position? Well, if you can't get in, if you're doing a crappy squat, you're not strength. You shouldn't just, you're obviously trying to squat for a reason, right? You're trying to get stronger. If you're doing it poorly, you're not strengthening what you think you're strengthening. If we take the stress off your ankles and let you get into a better position, then we're actually working on the hip muscles, the leg muscles, the quads, the hamstrings, all of those the way that we're intending to. That's going to help you build strength. That's going to help you build coordination. That's going to help you build more force through the ground. So, all right.
So go through so the first three were the hinge.
So just basically posture, your golf posture.
Okay.
And then we look at the pelvic tilting test. That's the kind of cat and camel test. We look at your trunk rotation. We look at your pelvic rotation. So the opposite of that. So this stays still and then the pelvis is going side to side. And then we go through a couple different squat tests. We'll go through one with the heels up. We'll go one with the heels down. And then after that, I also will do an overhead squat test. And we'll take a dowel rod or a PVC pipe or a golf club, put it on their head here. You start out with their elbows are at 90 degrees, grab the bar, and then you straighten it all the way up. And I'll start this on the incline board and see if they can go down and what happens when they get down lower. If they can keep that bar, so from this position as I would raise up, if they can keep the bar behind their toes when they get all the way down in the bottom position, that's considered a pass. If they can't, depending on what happened with their other squat test, I may or may not have them do that. Or if they can, I'll have them do it flat-footed then. If they can't, I won't have them do it flat-footed. There's no point. But that might show us that there's some core stuff, some upper back and shoulder issues that we need to deal with just motion-wise as well. The overhead squat is a great exercise But you have to be careful with that one too, because again, if you're trying to do it and you're not able to even do a regular squat properly, you have to adjust to do the overhead squat properly.
Yeah, that can be a tough one.
Yeah. All right. Shep, I know that wasn't really very personalized to you, but
That's good.
any thoughts on any of that?
No, I guess, no, because I think we did a couple of those, that overhead squat. I think we did that in the smash sessions once.
We did.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, I guess, what's after that? Is there any upper body tests you do as well, or?
Yeah, I would also look at like some shoulder range of motion stuff. We would do a seated trunk rotation, where I would take a club across the shoulders and have you rotate both ways. We'd have you seated, kind of lock your legs in by holding onto a ball so the lower body doesn't move. And on that, I'm looking for at least 45 degrees of rotation going each direction. Closer to 60 is a little more ideal. And then we're always looking for balance on both sides, just trying to figure out what the right side looks like compared to the left side. And then along those lines, let's see, upper body wise. So I would do that both this way and then also with the bar behind the back. And then there's some other hip rotation drills that we would look at, some glute kind of strength and kind of core stabilization exercises. And then there's several other things that we would get into, but those are the crux of the, I'm going to mute John here. Those are the crux of the mobility kind of exercise. We would get into a couple coordination things, some of the power tests that I talked about, but yeah, hopefully that gives a little bit of a glimpse into at least the first part of the assessment that I would do.
Okay, cool. And then Bob said if you fail the flat foot squat test, what is the next course of action? Which of the workouts would you recommend?
Yeah, so if you fail the flat foot squat test, that's when I would elevate your feet up. And if you find that, elevate your heel, because that will negate the need for your shin bone to flex as far forward because your heel is going to be up. So that should let you get your hips down a little bit lower, at least to 90 degrees is what I'd like to see. Now, if you find that doesn't do the trick either, then we would kind of try to find a way to modify. Sometimes what I would do with guys or girls would be, I'll have them with a bench behind them. And if say we were intending on doing like a dumbbell squat, I'll have them hold the dumbbells in their hands and sit all the way down to the bench and then stand all the way back up. But they have to keep their posture pretty upright. Obviously, as you go forward, you're going to lean forward a little bit to stand up. But that way, you're not trying to get your hips down quite as low. You have something that you can kind of rest and land on. And I'll raise the seat up a little bit if I have to. I'll put a pad on the seat if the initial bench is a little too low. But first thing to try is just elevating your heels and seeing if that helps. And then you can even shorten the range of motion a little bit. I'm okay with that. It's more about keeping that posture a little bit more upright in that position. You got it.
There we go. Thanks. You're welcome, Bob. I'll take credit for Bodie's answer there.
Thank you.
You got it.
Okay. Yeah. Let's continue this conversation next week. Jeff, once we get figure out what the problems are, then figure out what the solution should be. I hate the word solution so much.
Yeah, we'll go through like what the rest would look like. And then, we can talk about then where do we go from there? Because I cater it a lot differently to different people. People have different needs as far as, are they coming in here? Are they going to see me once a month? Are they traveling? What equipment do they have? What don't they have? So we can talk about all of these different scenarios and what we would do in that situation.
Cool. All right. Well, in the meantime,
Awesome,
Hayden Buckley, let's make it to the weekend and see what happens.
All right. And then I'd like to get a little over under on whether you guys think I'll break 100 or not out there. 12 handicap, 12 index these days. Feel free to post that in the chat or in the Facebook group.
I hate
Maybe
to
somebody
be
can
a-
guess my score, and except then I have to post my score.
It's set up for the pros, which is not going to be good for you.
No, it's not playing into my favor. Now, the only caveat is I don't know what tees we're playing. So I assume they'll have us playing from the appropriate tees. Brian says 99. I like it. All right. All right. I'll keep you guys posted. I am going to try to be better about getting some videos and pictures and stuff from the weekend on my Instagram while I'm down there. So if you're interested in all, I'll be posting some of that stuff. So, all right,
Cool.
guys.
Have
Adios.
fun. Have
Will
fun.
do.
I'm
We'll see
sure.
you next week.
See you, everybody.
Thank you.